Hi everyone,
Hey, Precious.
welcome to another episode of the 10x Developer Podcast. I
Mhm.
am Precious, and with me is Nilanjan. Hi Nilanjan.
Hey, Precious, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How was your weekend?
Good, good. It was good. Again, another very busy week
Yeah,
with AI news, huh?
yeah. AI news. We
Yeah.
AI news.
Lots of
So
stuff
let's see what
happening. We are like, yeah, we jump in.
I was telling someone yesterday in church that every week my mind is blown every Monday because I get to look at all
Yeah.
the changes that happened in the past 1 week, and I'm like, okay, so when are we going to catch a break? When are we going to rest from, you know,
Yeah.
all the things happening in this space? But yeah, it's kind of
It
interesting. It also
it makes me
showcases what
wonder sometime though. I mean, we are both sort of technical. We are actively plugged into this space.
yeah,
We are getting overwhelmed with all the changes happening, right? It's impossible to
yeah,
keep up with all this. I sometimes wonder when people are on the fence. I mean, they use AI, but they're not actively involved with technology. I mean,
yeah.
for them, it's gotta feel like a wild west, right? There's so much stuff happening. It's just crazy. Um,
I saw a tweet where someone tweeted that he took a break over the weekend and then he went to, relate with people who know technology, and he found out that nobody cares about AI. Nobody in the real world
yeah,
cares
no,
about
very good.
AI.
That's good. I mean, sometimes you just have to unplug. I like that. Maybe I should try that because it's
Yeah.
stressful sometimes. I feel like, yeah. All right, so
Yeah,
I'm going
it
to
can be
jump in. We got some interesting product releases and new tools, new stuff came out last week. So the first one is Perplexity Labs. It's a new product that came out from Perplexity AI, which is an AI search startup. Um, this is an interesting product. It's almost like a sort of your on-call analyst, spreadsheet jockey, or any front-end dev all rolled into one role. I mean, this is like a perfect tool where you just need to automate a piece of thing, right? If maybe you have a spreadsheet, you want to create a nice little dashboard, or you want to build a nice automation tool. I thought this was sort of an interesting play. This tool can create web apps like other Vive coding platform. It's not meant for that. It's more sort of mini apps. So for an example, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to South Dakota, okay, for a few days. So I thought maybe I'll use this tool to kind of map out. So, hey, I'm going to South Dakota for 4 days. Create an interactive Google map for me with all the places I can visit as a tourist. So it created a nice little map for me, interactive, where I can dots. If I click, it gives me details about the tourist spot. So I thought this was pretty nice.
wow. So it can do the whole full app, but they specialize on creating tiny apps like mini
Many
apps.
apps, yeah. You have one data source, you want to do something like I did. You're going somewhere, you want to create an interactive sort of map or application, any mini apps, right? So their site has lots of interesting
Wow.
examples also. People are sharing the prompt. So it's a prompt too. So you just have to do prompt. And I found it fascinating that
From
it actually, for this South Dakota example, it actually went to web, obviously. It searched all the tour. I didn't provide any data. So it went through figuring out what are the
wow.
data points. So it gives you the breakdown also. So you know what code it generated, what data is used. So I thought it was really nicely done. It's only available for Pro
Wow.
account.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
so if you have to have a Pro account to use this, but I feel like I'm going to go back to this over and over again if I want to get something quickly done.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about it. I mean, being niche down to mini apps is something that is very interesting because everybody's trying to like build front end, everybody's trying to
Mm,
take developers out of the market.
yeah,
But then these guys are just saying, oh, you don't need to do all that, just build tiny apps. Let's say
yeah.
you're trying to go to a country, you can build like a mini tourist app,
Mm,
or you're trying to go to, let's say, you just simple things, or
mm,
you just want something to take and populate an app that populates an Excel sheet for you, something like that.
Right. So I mean, it's almost
I
like
think
ChatGPT meets,
maybe one of these.
yeah, sorry, yeah, ChatGPT meets Airtable, Notion charts, all sorts of. I think there is a nice little gray area between you hire a dev team to build your app and you vibe code your
Yeah,
app. I think there is a nice gray area in middle with mini apps. I
yeah.
think it fits very well there.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. All right. So that's interesting. That's a very interesting
Yeah.
one. So the first one I want to talk about today is Stitch. Stitch. So last week we covered a lot on Google, but then we were not able to talk about this particular tool or this particular product. So it's called Stitch. So Stitch is basically vibe vibe designing.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard about vibe marketing, so this feels like vibe designing. So all you need to do is to prompt it with, just drop a prompt, and then it designs the landing page for you. So you can say, "Oh, help me design a landing page for a farmer website or an agricultural investment website or stuff like that," and it just goes on and creates it for you. Very simple, right? So, it's a product of Google, and designers, you're about to be you should be scared for your job because
Yeah.
these guys are coming
No.
for you.
So it
So
it can create
and,
mobile
and
version
the
website.
great yeah, everything. You can do everything. Now
Mm.
it takes it up a little bit. It can export that same design that you created to code for you.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's like I think that also gives. Remember, I think few episodes ago we were talking about vibe coding stack, how people use combine different AI tools to be able to vibe code,
Mm.
and then I think this is really interesting. So you can go from design to production. I mean, vibe code from design to production
Yeah.
without being an expert. So you
So,
just use your prompt
yeah.
to generate, and
Yeah.
also yeah,
So when I was vibe coding with V0 a couple of weeks back for the agent link, the landing page, I obviously didn't have
yeah,
I didn't do the design. I started with screenshot because I don't know how to do Figma design. Now this fits rightly into
yeah,
that stack now. So I could potentially start with an idea that I want to build this app, go to this stitch here, stitch up, and ask it to create a Figma design for me, export that to Figma,
yeah,
then take the Figma file and go to V0 to generate the app. So the whole stack
yeah.
just could be from idea to production, design to coding, everything could be sort of prompted now.
Done prompted.
Which was really
That's
cool.
very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, which is I don't know
This morning I was
why
listening
people are not
to.
talking about this. I thought this tool was really, really good too. It's super exciting.
I wonder why he didn't get like a
Yeah,
lot of buzz
yeah.
during the
Surprising.
UI and stuff.
Very surprising.
Maybe designers don't want to loud it so that people will not think that their jobs. They don't want their CEOs to find out about this too.
Maybe.
So
So the next story I got on my queue here is from Simon Olsen. I'm a big fan about his weblog. Let me share the link first. I mean, if you are at all interested in, I'm assuming you are, that's why you are here, interested in AI, LLM, any sorts of news, I would highly encourage to follow his blogs. He's always pretty cutting edge. I mean, I get most of my new LLM news sort of from him. I follow him on Twitter. Excellent. He's also co-creator of Django framework. So
wow.
he recently did a blog with I don't want to steal the thunder. I encourage everybody to watch the YouTube video because he's a pragmatic guy. He's a techie guy. He's like us, man. I mean, he totally gets it. So no filter,
Yeah.
no bullshit sort of way. So I really like his take on all sorts of things about AI. So this blog was about obviously the most pressing issue that is on everybody's mind is AI, what's happening to job market and all that. I mean, it breaks down very, very nicely. Obviously, there is a segment of users that really freaking out about AGI coming in and taking over kind of sci-fi way,
Yeah.
right? Oh, they're going to kill us and end of the judgment day sort of thing. But this was more like I think there is going to be a huge economic disruption. I mean, I think it's already happening sort of in where information handling jobs are getting squeezed, right? And I feel like
Yeah.
I like what he I agree with this, because I think some of this is going to be very temporary, because it feels like, oh, AI is going to take over and we are all losing job. But there is an upside to this, where as AI is coming over, and we keep saying this, right? I mean, there are going to be new types of jobs opening up, right? So
Yeah.
your expertise is not going to be like, I am doing this. You're more expertise about I'm better at reviewing code generated by AI. Or a next job description could be, I'm an
Oh,
editor of chief of machines, right? Right. This is what's happening, right? I mean, you're going to use Stitch to design. The design's going to not look really good. You have to prompt it, edit it. So our roles are
yeah.
transferring from creator to being an editor.
Yeah.
Um, and and I think there are lots of interesting insights in this blog that I will encourage our audience here to go check it out.
Yeah. So I think the link to the blog is already in the charts. If you are here, just check the charts. You're going to see the link to the blog.
Do
Right.
you agree with that though,
So
Precious? I mean, this job cut's sort of going to be temporary, and we're going to eventually figure out, okay, there we need new set of roles and responsibilities to kind of manage this AI infrastructure.
so this morning I was listening to Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google.
Mm, mm,
Right. I was listening to him talk about, you know, so apparently some guys we are complaining about AI search on Google,
mm, mm,
right? So they are saying that AI search is basically taking the information from our
mm,
platform, giving it to the users, or redirecting them back to our platform. So we are not making money.
mm,
And then on that podcast, he was asked, "What do you think about this?" And he said that, I mean, people obviously will be skeptical about a lot of stuff. People are going to be skeptical that they're going to lose their jobs. But then he also made mention of very interesting thing. He compared it to the rise of internet,
mm,
right?
mm,
And he said during the rise of the internet, people Google didn't even exist
mm,
when internet came, right?
mm,
So Google didn't exist. So before the internet, there was the idea of Google was not there. But then look at what Google is today. It feels like we can't survive without it. It has grown
mm,
to build like to be like $1 billion company,
mm,
right? And nobody knew that was going to happen.
mm,
Before the internet, people couldn't blog.
mm,
People couldn't blog, right? And then he also said that since TikTok came into play,
mm.
YouTube has doubled their views.
Interesting.
So more people are now going to watch videos because of the new trend that TikTok came in with, right? So he said it's not a zero sum game and that a lot of things are still
Yeah.
going to
I
come
like
out.
that.
So we are going to see more jobs. We're going to see more AIs
Mm,
come into play.
mm,
I think it was Satya, the Microsoft guy, that was saying that SaaS are going to die and we're going to have uh, AI agent as a
mm,
service,
mm,
right? So he made the analogy and said agent as a service, and then someone asked him and said, "How do you think these agents are going to? Do you think someone like Uber is going to collapse their whole infrastructure, everything that they knew, and then put it inside an agent, and then people now book for rides using agents, right? People now have agents that help them order rides for them." And then he said, "I mean, you just have to." You get to a point where you have to,
mm,
because if the users prefer to use an agent to book a ride or
mm.
to have an agent that books a ride for them, so why will you decide to stick on an app or remain on an app?
So,
So we don't, I think we have like a whole new world that is yet to be discovered,
mm,
and that is what I want to focus on, not
I think,
what people are saying, not the fact that they're going to lose jobs.
yeah, I think that's a
We'll lose
really
jobs,
good
but we'll find
statement. Yeah, I mean, things will definitely change. We just have to evolve. I think that's my takeaway through
yeah.
this. I mean,
So
there
I
will
think
be a section of
my
people going to
major
make an argument that agents going to become smart and they will be able to do everything. And I always wonder about that, especially as a builder. And I get that feedback too, like, oh, Neil, why are you building this agents? And tomorrow someone else will. I mean, there will be universal agent that will take care of everything. I mean, then one response could be, okay, then I just relax, drink beer, and chill because there's nothing else to do for me then, right? If everything is taken care. Or otherwise, gonna figure
Yeah.
this out. There gotta be new opportunities that we can go after. But, yeah.
Humans will always find new ways to
Right.
do
Right.
other things. To do, we'll always have something to do.
Yeah.
We'll always find something to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is the era where we are going into, because we're already in the era of abundance knowledge. So
Yeah.
we're going into a place where we take this knowledge and be able to, do things with it, basically. I think that's what we're getting into.
Mhm.
So until we get there, right now, let's just build agents for everything.
Yeah.
Let's just build agents for everything. We have agents for food, agents for
So there is
agents
there is
to.
another
I have a friend that
interesting
will make a
interesting
joke.
aspect too. Now, since everybody gonna start building agents, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately because of the agent link. Um,
Yeah,
I think this explosion's gonna have similarly going back to that Google analogy. The explosion's gonna have challenges. So right there will be like hundreds of agents gonna be claiming I do this, right? Then
yeah,
as an user, you gotta figure it. I mean, you cannot definitely try 100 agents to see which one works for you. Is what I'm guessing. So I
yeah,
think there was
yeah,
lots of people going after over indexing on volume, but I think there's going to be the space now and I just need quality agents. I need something that really works. And based on my experience building agents quickly, you can build agents quickly. That's great, but building high quality agents is just another level. I mean, it's not trivial. It takes time and
yeah.
testing and
It,
stuff.
it, it's not really. It's not because
Yeah,
I saw some guys. There's this new tool called N8N. I wonder why we've not covered it on this podcast or this one,
yeah, I heard that
but
too.
it's mostly for marketing. Yeah, it's mostly for marketing. The person that told me about it is a marketing expert. So he was telling me that, oh, I found this new tool. It helps me do all my automations. Whenever a user signs up on a website, I schedule them, put them on a list. They already have the email. I don't care when they do this other thing. Depending on, so he just creates like this whole chain of actions depending on what the user does on the website, right? So he just does it once and he never goes back to it again. The he was telling me that anything is the best thing he has ever seen, and I'm like, okay, I've not seen this. I may have to check it out, but
I know
you
about
know,
this too.
so
It's just
everybody's
they've
building
never,
agents.
yeah. Yeah, everybody's building this agent.
Yeah,
Everybody
we've never.
claiming this, and I don't know. I don't know, man. I feel like there is an aspect of quality you have to. I guess it depends, right? What kind of work you're doing. If it's in a critical work where it's important that this things gets right, then there is another
I
layer
think
of
data is also something else.
yeah. There is another a layer of trust and safety going to become really, really important going forward.
Yeah,
Anyways,
data is also something else,
oh yeah, yeah,
especially
yeah,
for
totally,
someone like me in Africa.
totally.
We don't have a lot of data, so I am trying to see and talk to those that build agents in Africa. So if you're building agents in Africa, send me a DM. So, so I want to see, how they go about data, how they go about, sourcing, making sure that these agents are like top quality agents,
Mm.
making sure that they have access to the right information, integrations to with other tools, like how do you integrate this agent to it. I've seen interesting things where people just make payment on WhatsApp. A lot of interesting things that are now that people are now able to do because of AI agents, right?
Mm.
But I've not seen someone gone out to build like proper AI agents that does like a specific thing. And I'm also interested to see how people are going to use it in enterprise system, especially for people down here
Yeah,
who where data is something else. We don't want
right,
to go into it on this. Yeah.
right, right.
Okay, so
You
let's
you
look
have
at
a
the
next
next
story, yeah.
story.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think that is the story of. So, guys, maybe we should do this. So, I saw this story that Python introduced AI types. I've been trying to verify that story and I've not been able to. So, please, you can tag me on Twitter, tag us on Twitter, just tag at Tublian on Twitter so we can see if that story is real. Python developers, do we now have AI types on Python? So just let me know because I wanted to do that story, but I couldn't verify it. Yeah. So we want to talk about DeepSeek. So DeepSeek released this new a single GPU reasoning and coding model. I think they call it R10528, right? So they're saying this is the best model and it specializes or does better on math and coding tasks. And you can see right, and it still runs on high-end GPU. So I don't know. A lot of the stuffs we've seen from China, they've been largely open source, and we've been largely seeing stuffs around DeepSeek. I don't know if anybody still uses DeepSeek. I really don't use it anymore. I used it when it came out newly. It didn't live up to my expectations. So
No,
so
this one could be interesting since its resource requirement is so limited. I think there is a space in here where, especially for coding agents, on-prem coding agents, to use some of this open source models, so you can have this whole agent self-contained. With, I mean, if it's
yeah,
open source and open weights, I mean, I think it's relatively. If you deploy on-prem, then you don't have the security concern that some of the folks have about using DeepSeek, right? I think there is an interest.
yeah.
So I really appreciate that they're doing that. Obviously, their intention is to sort of disrupt this market. But having an open source model at par with almost close to O3 and Gemini is pretty impressive, because open source is usually
Yeah.
behind, right? Almost 6 months, 9 months from this top of the line large language models that we get from Google and OpenAI. So seeing open sources catching up there is kind of impressive, because we want this, right? We want to
So
have the.
I think, yeah, we want this. I think one of the other thing I would like to know is with the speed of this model, right? I don't know if you have an idea on the speed of this model
I mean, speed is
because
kind of sort
I
of
think,
relative in terms of hardware, right?
yeah, because I found out that ChatGPT has been incredibly fast, but
Yeah.
Gemini takes a little bit of time.
Mm.
Yeah, and maybe because I am used to how fast this other one is. When I'm here, I'm frustrated. I'm always like,
So
get this
this
thing
is also,
fast.
I saw a recent study about this, because I'm like you on that, like, hey, I want as fast as possible. And obviously the thinking models, on the other hand, does take time, right? It turns out that you know how when you use O3 or any other model, it tells you that I'm thinking, progress bar sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think they did this study. Where is that? Maybe we've covered this story in some one of the episodes. That users really actually don't care much about waiting, as long as they think, as long as they see the model is thinking, because that sort of give them the user feedback. Okay, yes, the model is really trying, and I'll get a high quality, right? So what I'm trying to say is that user doesn't mind waiting for a response as long as the response is high quality.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a few
Well, I
seconds here
mean,
and there. Tons of users don't mind waiting. So which I thought was kind of interesting.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, if it's going to give me, if it's going to take time and give me
yeah,
good good results,
yeah,
I don't mind. I
yeah,
honestly don't
exactly,
mind.
exactly.
But I think the problem is when it takes time and it doesn't
Yeah,
deliver good results.
yeah.
Then, you know.
So next story, I think this is
Okay.
my maybe I will see how it goes. This one is fascinating, and I love what Anthropic is doing, right? I mean, they came up with MCP, which is now becoming a standard. So they recently released a paper, which I think they're what they're calling it. They're calling it sort of um, a tracing thoughts of a large language model. So one of the challenges we have in this industry right now is we actually don't know. We feed the prompt to the model and something comes out at the end as an output. There is no sort of traceability and audit flow, right? I mean, it's really, really hard to answer the question, why did model respond like that? So, in a program, we debug through line by line. We know exactly which line caused which output, right? There is no such a debugging tool for large language models. You give input, you get an output, and you say, I have no idea how that came out with the output. So Anthropic is trying something with their own model, which I thought was fascinating. Also, imagine you're fitting a little GoPro inside Claude's head. So as Claude is processing your input, you can see how that information is flowing inside that whole neural net, that whole large language model. So that enables like sort of we've been treating large language models sort of as a black box, right? I have no idea. Nobody can tell why model responded like that. Now, sort of, which scares lots of people, right? Because we're going to be automating so much stuff. And I think governments are coming in there, especially happening in EU, and I think US will catch up too. Is sort of AI safety, right? Companies need to now have audit trails. Like, why did you respond customer like this? Why did you reject someone's application like that? You have to give me the audit trail. So having LLM as a black box is obviously scares lots of people. So this kind of opens things up. Now we can see how LLM thinks, which obviously are going to give us lots of insights, and we will know how to do things. It's a fascinating paper they released with a YouTube video. I highly encourage, if you guys have some time, to check it out. Let me drop the link in here. This, I'm assuming, is going to open up lots of interesting models in the future, tools which will allow us to build really, really safe applications on top of large language models. There's one interesting bit which I thought was really interesting. Maybe we should talk about is, we all talk about why models hallucinate, right? Oh, it's just giving me crap, or I had no idea why. And they've been sort of exploring that question a little bit in here. Why do large language models sometimes hallucinate? Why it does make up information? Why it does that? So at the basic level, it turns out, and I've been seeing that a lot these days too, how we train these models is very, very critical, right? So the basic level, when we train these large language models, we are sort of incentivizing these models to hallucinate, because they're all been, this, right? At the fundamental level, we all want all this model to guess what's the next word, right? At the basic level, right? That's what it does. So if you view this way, those models are always encouraged to produce next word, next word, next word. It's not trained to say, I don't know what is the next word, right? So I think that's one of the fundamental reasons why most of the model hallucinates. Turns out, I didn't know this, Claude actually has a separate anti-hallucination training step, which actually tells this model to say, you can refuse to answer if you don't know. Just say, I don't know.
Wow.
And they then ran this through their tracing program, and then they saw that the default behavior of Claude is sort of has a refusal mode. It starts with, I don't know. Then when you when you prompt something that it really knows, then the other section of it's almost like electric signals, right? How information flows to neural.
Yeah.
So one section is always on, which is, I don't know. And when you send a prompt that's saying, like, in this blog, they talk about like Michael Jordan. Do you know Michael Jordan? Obviously, this model is trained on Michael Jordan. Then other sections of their neural net sort of lights up, which oversees this. And that's essentially forces the model to respond with saying, hey, I know who is Michael Jordan.
Wow.
Yeah, cutting edge stuff,
That's
man.
very
Cutting
interesting
edge
because
stuff, yeah.
hallucination is a big problem. When I say it's a problem, everybody is concerned about manipulation and hallucination. What is going on? Why is this model saying stuff like this? Or why? How did they come about this information? For example, it's also important to share these things here, right?
Yeah.
Because we are using these tools, and then these things are happening in real time. So the news I talked about, which is the AITypes, right? Gemini gave me that, but
Completely made things
I
up,
can't
man.
find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he just created this news and just threw it at me. I've been googling, I've been searching all the blogs, I've not seen it. So where did you get this from?
Yeah.
So I need it to be nice. It even gave me a link, but the link doesn't work. So you even made up a
So
link,
I
right?
remember
So
when I
we
was
also
at the beginning of the BizDev agent. So I had a specific technical challenge about sort of
yeah,
scanning the web page, and
yeah,
Claude Sonnet spit out, I mean, like a whole new standard protocol doesn't even exist. Oh, Chrome extension has this API, accessibility API, that we can use to address this problem, and spit out like 500 lines of code based on just imaginary protocol that doesn't even exist. Uh, and these
wow,
things are very hard to catch because the confidently that models responds to you, you're like, I don't know. I mean, most of the time we pretend this models obviously know lots of than I do. Like, holy shit, this is cool.
yeah,
Then you go and try to run the code and saying, I mean, and it crash and burn, saying like, what is this? I have no idea what kind of protocol is this. It's fascinating. Which is
yeah,
true because most of the prompt engineering or evals is all
yeah,
about addressing this hallucination problem, right? I mean, typical standard is always uh, provide a way out for the model because these models are designed such a way it's always you have to answer. I think sometimes it's
yeah.
really interesting when you prompt something, guys. That's just a tip. When you're writing prompt, always think of an exit strategy for the model. Case where model
Oh,
doesn't know, provide an outlet for that model to say, I don't know. If you don't, that's usually the biggest source of hallucination.
yeah. So can you put this like in an example way? So how will you put it? Can you give me
Yeah.
like an example?
So for the biz dev agent that we're doing, right? So we
Yeah,
are trying this agent to sort of generate a cover letter for you for Upwork, right? And
yeah,
and one of the thing that we wanted to do is it's been a tricky challenge though, right? Because sometimes uh, the skills we have sort of translates like
yeah,
horizontally to other verticals. So for an example, let's say I know multiple programming languages. For me, it's relatively easy to pick up new language because I've done this before. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I might be interested to apply for, I don't know, Rust. I don't know Rust, okay?
yeah,
But I know languages that's gonna map to Rust. So I want my agents to encourage me to submit for this project because there are skills that I can translate. Okay.
yeah,
Versus if somebody asks saying, have you built voice agents? I really haven't done that. That's a completely different skills. In those cases, I
yeah.
want agent to kind of question me and stop me, saying, are you sure you want to
So,
apply here? Because it doesn't feel like you have the skill. This is very
oh, I
tricky
see.
because one hand I'm encouraging model to get creative. On the other hand, I'm asking model to don't make up stuff.
Yeah,
So you have to put exit strategies. The way I do, what typically you do is that you set examples. So I will give these two examples to model as inside the prompt, and I will say what should be the expected behavior. The first one, the expected behavior will continue to generate because I have skills that translate. On the second, I will prompt it saying, you should ask me question. You stop and immediately ask question, hey user, I don't see you have relevant skills. Are you sure you want to apply?
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, 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 yeah. Just letting it double check to make sure that
Then double
everything.
now this is where things get tricky. That's why I'm saying building high quality agents is not trivial in the sense some of this you will not know. It's
Yeah,
not that I'm smart enough to know all the possible cases. You keep
yeah,
testing and model will come up with some random answers. Then you have to say, okay, I'm missing a test case for that.
yeah. So I think we've been so if you noticed last week we've been dropping a lot of articles on AI agents if you follow Tublian and all. So in one of the articles we are talking about best practices or ingredients of a good AI agent, and then one of the ingredients or one of the best practices is that the agent should not be too chatty, right? So where do we balance this from an agent being too chatty? How do we balance it?
I mean, if you're building a chatbot of it, yeah, I mean, it's tricky too. I mean, it depends on the use case mainly. For us, we don't want to make it too chatty. I want to make it very snappy. But
Yeah,
one way I've been thinking of doing this is that can we collect all this questions and concerns we have, that's like a one prompt, like one question. So instead of interrupting user over and over again.
Okay.
And then also another thing you have to worry about is that you cannot do too much output tokens, because if you try to ask model to generate more outputs, it makes things more slower.
More slower.
There's
And
some
maybe
some
more expensive.
performance tricks. More expensive too.
Yeah, more
Output tokens,
expensive.
they charge output tokens, and yeah, we covered about this last week too. I mean, how these models are incentivized. That's
Yeah,
why,
they're
that's another
incentivized.
reason why these models generate lots of code, unnecessary code, because more
Yeah,
outputs means more money for them.
more money for them. Yeah, more output means more money. All right. It's been an interesting conversation today. It's been an interesting conversation today. Right. So uh, do we have any other news? I don't think we do.
Do you have one Microsoft one if you want to cover before, or Apple one before we head out?
Oh yes, I mean just the way we had the the Microsoft Google I/O, we have is it Open I/O, and we have the Microsoft build. So Apple WWDC is coming up. You all know about Apple, and then the thing is that everybody's expecting everybody's expecting to know what's up, what is Apple building. So for now we only know a few things. So they have Swift Assist. So this is like um as an AI agent for AI assisted coding that helps developers that build on Swift. So Swift is the programming language that you can use to build iOS apps, right? So for developers that build on Swift, they have this AI assisted coding that they launched. And then we also know that they integrated with I think OpenAI, right, on on Siri,
Siri.
some of the
Mhm.
AI on Siri. So everybody, I mean, Google was all about AI, Microsoft was all about AI, open source, and MCP. So who knows what Apple is coming with this time? So everybody's looking forward to WWDC, and let's see, let's see what they come up with. So I
When
don't
is
know,
it?
maybe
It's
this
happening
this
this week, I believe.
yeah, I think it should be this week. Let me quickly double check that. So I think it's this June
Apple
9th. So
is
it's happening
Apple has
in
such
7
a
days.
big advantage over every other competitor out there, because they have distribution. There are so
Yeah.
many
So what?
iPhones out there. It's just crazy.
So it's interesting because so there's a new conversation. I think I stumbled on this over the weekend also or last week.
Mhm.
So there's a new
Mm.
conversation on how hardware distribution is going to change because of AI. So you know how the
Okay.
whole wearable model is coming up, and then
Mhm.
you can integrate a whole agent into your WhatsApp, and then you have billions of people on
Mhm.
WhatsApp that use this agent. You can integrate an
Mhm.
agent into all these platforms. So people have been talking about distributions and how
Mhm.
hardware is going to change over time.
Mhm.
So are they really going to win having iPhones? Are they really going to win like that?
Well, I mean,
For
Apple
example,
is
my
crazy, man.
I have
Oh.
I have I noticed that my Samsung phone added ChatGPT on my phone, so I can
Mhm.
simply just it's I stopped it from listening, so but I can easily have it listen to me all day on my Samsung.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just there on the phone, right? So
So, so I think the companies like Perplexity is going after Samsung. I think they're doing partnership with this.
yeah,
Um, Maybe that's true in Africa, Samsung. I don't know anybody in my circle who has Samsung phone.
yeah,
Uh,
Android is elite.
yeah,
So
so
we
iPhone has
use
a huge
Android a lot.
distribution, obviously, a huge distribution. For them to integrate AI, I mean, obviously, there's tremendous opportunity. That's the moat, right? That's hard to beat. Um,
Yeah,
uh, which brings a lot of interesting, like, I mean, I think about moat a lot, right? One of the companies that has moat, like it's impossible to beat, is Visa or MasterCard. The network
Yeah,
that Visa has built. I mean, I can imagine doing something like that. I know Visa is now exploring sort of payment gateways for AI agents, right? I mean, we talked about this, right?
yeah,
Agents needs to kind
yeah,
of manage money and authentication. There is a new set of problems that's coming up, and
yeah.
yeah. I mean, distribution is king, man. I mean,
Distribution
when
is
I
key.
was starting this my startup journey, I was not aware of this distribution could be key. I mean, you could build amazing product out there, but if you don't know how to distribute this, there's nothing works.
So I mean,
So distribution go to market is split.
web platforms gave, a whole. I mean, everybody goes to web. Everybody's like, oh, you know what?
Yeah,
Let's go to
yeah,
web, right?
yeah,
But then, for example, our business agent is coming on Chrome extension. That's like a distribution
yeah,
line.
yeah,
I wouldn't. Not a lot of people think of Chrome extension. To think that
yeah.
my Grammarly is
No,
on
but
Chrome
that's
extension.
one way. That's a channel, though. But we still have to ultimately figure it out, and which we have a good strategy around this is
Yeah,
how the freelancer is going to find us, right? I mean, that's kind of sort of another distribution I was thinking about.
yeah, that's
Well,
like
funny
kind
enough,
of another thing.
I was somebody else did. Somebody else asked ChatGPT what is Tubelian, and it gave a really good answer. So ChatGPT knows about us. I think we should be start tracking
Oh,
how many traffic we are getting from ChatGPT. Yeah, it gave a really good answer.
yeah, yeah,
Tubelian is
yeah,
this. They're building lots of AI agents and all this stuff. So like
yeah.
search is getting disrupted. I mean, I think, and ChatGPT also, we'll be covering this news. I think ChatGPT is also starting another additional bonus news for you guys is, you know how we do sign in using Google?
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
implemented that, right? Any app can.
Yeah, we do that.
I think
Yeah.
OpenAI is doing now going to do sign in using ChatGPT.
Oh,
The This unlocks a next level of data for SaaS companies is just unbelievable,
yeah.
right? I mean, I
It
think
is on.
ChatGPT knows about me more than I personally think knows about me more than Google does with all the cookies and all the stuff because I get really personal with ChatGPT. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah, yeah,
instead of search, I'm actually opening up and having conversations. So the depth of the data is tremendous, I feel like.
yeah. I ran a
Will
prompt
AI,
this
there
weekend,
is a question,
yesterday.
actually, guys. Dude, there's a question. Will
Oh,
AI really
I did.
stop hallucinating? Isn't it just a fancy autocomplete? Um, so take a look at the Mr. Sure, take a look at the paper that Anthropic sent out. I think saying this is fancy autocomplete is probably not fair. I think it does more than that. But some argue that the architecture of LLMs will always have hallucination as a problem. But Anthropic's take on like hallucination is usually an output of how you train this model. And once we figure out how to do anti-hallucination sort of training steps or evolve our training methodology, I feel like we'll be able to close that gap. I don't know whether it will be 100% or not, but we'll be able to close that gap.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
hope
mean,
that answers your question.
thinking about it, I don't think is really going to really, really stop hallucinating. I don't know because imagine
I mean,
we
we
even
don't
for
want to
humans,
though, right?
right?
I mean, no, the argument goes we don't want to. I mean, don't we make mistakes?
Yeah, yeah. That was exactly where I'm going
Again,
to because you
asking a
have.
model that give me something that you'll never make a mistake is unfair. I feel like we make a mistake,
Yeah, we make
and
mistakes.
models make a
Yeah,
mistake, and I think that's okay.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Asha. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Asha, for that. I mean, it's. I don't think. Also, considering the amount of information he has access to, I think it's bound to
Data
hallucinate.
is a king. Data is a
Yeah,
king.
data is
The
the king. It's bound to
Most of the
hallucinate.
time it's all about how you set the context, how you do prompting. I mean, lots of these
Yeah,
hallucinations can't be managed.
yeah, they can. They can.
All right, I think we are way
All
past
right.
time. I got a meeting
Yeah,
I have
we
to
are way
jump to.
past
Yeah.
time, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was fun though.
So, thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's episode of the 10x Developer Podcast. Our last episode is on Spotify. I should quickly drop that link. Where will I find it? Where will I find it? Let me
I
quickly
think
drop the link
I think you
so you
shared
can
with me.
listen to our last episode on Spotify. Yeah, yeah. So I just found it.
Okay.
So let me drop the link on the chat. You can check it out on the chat. Check us out. We're on Spotify. Next week, maybe we'll have this episode on Spotify. I think this episode should be on Spotify. There are a lot of interesting things that are interesting conversations on this episode, and I believe people would like to like come back to it and listen to it over again. All right. So thank you very much for joining us. If you have anything you want us to talk about on this podcast, you can just send us a DM on at Tublian, every platform, LinkedIn, Twitter is just at Tublian. You can drop a comment on YouTube. If you're joining us on Twitter, you can drop a comment on Twitter. We are working on getting on other platforms like LinkedIn and all those other platforms. So yeah, sign up on Tublian, join Tublian community, and then thank you and see you next week.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye.
See you
Take
next
care.
week.
Bye.
Bye bye.